Welcome to the very first episode of the Hidden Gems of Guyana. I am Jasmine Grant. Hidden Gems is a show where we travel across Guyana's 10 administrative regions looking for some of the less popular tourist destinations. From Pacorami's peaks of power to the Quarantine's lush sands, Guyana remains one of the most spectacular gems in the world. Let's explore it together. In this episode, we're heading to the Rupununi. In fact, if we're being a bit more specific, we're heading to Letem in the central Rupununi district in the Upper Takatu, Upper Essequibo region. Region number 9. Letem is one of Guyana's newer towns, and it has since become a central point for local and domestic tourists coming here to explore nature and to dwell among Guyana's indigenous peoples of the Makushi and Wapisha nations. This region is also the hub of Guyana's expanding nature-based tourism industry, which includes bird watching, wildlife viewing, catch and release sport fishing, and adventure trips. The town got its name from Sir Gordon James Letem, who was the governor of Guyana from 1941 to April 12, 1947. We spoke with Carl Joseph, a resident of Letem and a popular indigenous and youth development advocate, who told us a bit about what life in Letem is like.
Lethem for me is kind of a weird, not bad weird, but good weird, of a combination of like living in Aishalton and Tong, right? So you have some things that, supermarkets, great access to good, stores for clothes, that sort of stuff. But it's also really close to nature, right? It's really that place where people come to, have your base here and enjoy a cultural fusion of, Brazilian, the different groups like the Wapchan people in the south and then the Makushi people in the north. So a lot of things happen right here in terms of food. It's only at the natal stages, but it's still something that I think people would enjoy, experiencing. The music is different. We have, as I said, it's that mixture as well too. So we have, of course, a few nightclubs here as well, bars, where you can enjoy that, the fusion of that music. But really and truly, I think at the end of it all, people really come here for the nature, right? If you're in Tong and you look out your window, you might just see endless rows of buildings and houses. But here, you could look out your window and the Kanuku Mountains is right there, right? You're literally right next to the Takatu River. You're next to a bunch of small creeks and lakes.
So, you mentioned a lot about nature and what could happen here. But we know that Guyana is now one of the top ecotourism destinations in the world, which attracts largely international tourists. But why should other Guyanese people, wherever part of Guyana they're from, why should they capitalize on also, visiting the Rupununi and specifically coming to Letem if, they just want that experience? Talk to me about traveling here. How do I get here? What's it like here in terms of the hotels? Where can I stay? What can I do? So talk to me as a Guyanese who is from Essequibo, from Georgetown. Why should I come here? And also, what do you think really attracts more international tourists than domestic people coming here?
Well, as a Guyanese, talking to another Guyanese person, we all the time just think about the money, how much we could actually spend and get an experience out of it. And as I said, it's relatively easy to get here. With bus, if you're more on the adventure side, you can take the bus, which usually takes like around 14 to 15 hours. So you get to see a lot of Guyana on the way as well too. You pass Kurupakari Cross and you go through the Ukarama forest. If you're lucky, you get to spot some wildlife. So just the experience of getting here alone is one of the reasons why you should come to the Rupununi, right? Whereas where you go to other places, and as I said, on the money side, right, it's a little bit more expensive to go to those other places because of the terrain. You might have to take a plane there. and it's a little bit more pricey. Plane is also another option that you can use to get here. Um, I think one of the big draws is that it's an all-in-one place, right? So whereas you might go to one of the other regions that are beautiful and are, they have their own attractions, Lethem is that place where you can, if you want to say that, okay, you hopped over to Brazil for a bit, you could go over and see Brazil, but you can also come here. You can go to one of the communities that are here. And as Guyanese, I think because a lot of our population, 90% of our population is on the coast, they have this one idea of what Guyana is. But coming to the Rupununi, you get a sense of everything that Guyana has to offer, right? So you have falls, you have mountains, you have the savannah, we have forests, all right? So it's not necessarily something you can find in the other regions. For example, you go to region 8 and obviously there's beautiful forests and so on, but you won't get that savannah experience, that wild cowboy experience that you might see. And so it's really that place where you take all of these things that you want to see about Guyana, put it into one trip. That's what you can get out of visiting Lethem.
Hi guys, my name is Sabrina Albert and I am from Bay Village. Due to my secondary education, tertiary education and my job, I have lived and worked in Lethem and in Georgetown. This is how life is in the Rupununi. We do sustainable farming, fishing, hunting and also some ecotourism. If you haven't been to the Rupununi, I would like to invite you to come, and some of the reasons I can give you to visit the Rupununi are: it is beautiful, the place is beautiful, it is peaceful, it is less stressful, the people are hospitable. You can find a multitude of creeks, waterfalls and a lot of activities to do in the Rupununi.
Some of the main attractions, and you can go a bit more in detail of things that you can do in the Rupununi.
All right, so off the top of my head, I think we can start off with the thing people see a lot is the falls. So the falls is definitely one of the closer things that you can do on any given day. It's so we have a number of falls. There is the Quarry Falls, there is the Mokomoko Falls, there is Kumu Falls, there's recently the Napi Falls, and then there's a bunch of others, smaller falls that you can find through the right tour agencies, which are a little bit more hidden and would require a little bit more hiking. So if you're, if that's something you're into, that's definitely something you want to check out, right? And they're close, they're beautiful. They require a little bit of hiking and some beautiful views when you go to see them. So I think that for sure is one thing that people come for. So people always talk about the falls. Obviously there's a big song about the falls, one of the falls right now. But if you're going to experience Lethem, and if you think that you're on a little bit of a budget, that's definitely something you can experience either way, and it would be great. Another thing that we have, which is not necessarily in Lethem, but in reasonable driving distance to Lethem, is the petroglyphs, and that speaks a little bit more to the the cultural heritage of the region, specifically the Wapjan people. And so there's a bunch of, I say petroglyphs, but there are different experiences to it. There's the actual petroglyph that you see on the rock, the carvings. Then there are caves that you can go into and see some really old and ancient carvings as well. So there are rock formations. There is a little bit of another beautiful makatao where you can climb and have another amazing view of the Rupununi, well, Aishaltan in particular. And when you go there, Aishaltan has somewhat of a loose package where you learn about the culture and why it is important, and some things that why we hold these places sacred to us. So there's that. There is also the rodeo. So we're here at the rodeo ground, and the rodeo is definitely one of the top things that people come to the Rupununi for. And you spoke a little bit earlier about the international tourists. So this is definitely something that draws in people as well too. And it's a whole spectacle. Like, this place comes alive. People from everywhere comes here, right? Everybody's coming down here. And so it's a place to experience the wild side. That's the the tagline for the Rupununi: experience the wild side, and you really get a sense of that. And I think we spoke about some of the things you can see when you come in. and that's definitely one. I'm just remembering one right now, which is the multiple ranches that we have. And so if you want, you want to ride a horse, you want to live your horse life, you could come to the Rupununi and they'll teach you some of this stuff and give you access to horses in a safe environment where you can ride and take nice pictures and stuff like that. And go out with the cowboys, the vaqueros, and round up some cows and spot a giant anteater too. So definitely one of the top things that comes to mind when you think about it.
So generally speaking, would you consider the Rupununi a hidden gem, or is it just a gem?
I think at the stage we're at, the Rupununi on a whole is definitely a gem. But with that being said, there are still places that a lot of people don't know about or they don't see. And I think there are pockets of hidden gems everywhere in the Rupununi. And you have to come to see those, right? Because you can always talk about it and hear about it. And there's the mainstream things that I talked about. But even when I talk about the falls, right? I talked about the falls being the top attraction, and that's a gem for sure. But there are some falls that you go to that are beautiful, hidden gems. You barely see any pictures on them. One that I can think of is Quarry Falls. So there's the first falls, everybody goes there. But you take a trek further up, and there's some even more beautiful falls up there, right? When you go to the ranches, and you go on one of the horse rides, they take you across the savannah, right? And so you might go to a ranch and you might stay in the lodge, you might swim in the river, but actually going there and then exploring, you find things like, this is Guyana, this is really, we live here, all this has happened in Guyana. And so I think any person, from Tongue, from Berbice, from Essequibo, they've never seen these things before, and they don't know that it lives right here in the country. And I would encourage anybody to come and check out these, those small experiences and those small places that really make Guyana. We as a whole, they call us, the hidden gem of South America. And within Guyana itself, there are all these other small things that you can find for sure.
As we come to the end of this episode, we want to thank you for joining us for this episode of the Hidden Gems of Guyana. We hope you enjoyed the Rupununi as much as we did.